My desire right when I was going to leave was simply to be in the realm of retreat work and anything that was helpful in that whole realm. And I was courted and convinced to join ministry work in a church. And that was sublime. I made the choice for numerous reasons. And even though it only lasted, even though it was only meant to be for 3 years, in that time, I had the opportunity to be with people of all ages. And we were a startup church, so we were starting most of the programs, most of the adult spiritual education programs, most of the programs for the families. There was so much we were able to do that didn't have something in place before we initiated it. So I was able to work with a lot of people in the church and help them realize their gifts, realize they could actually be teachers of their faith, realize that they could actually have roles of leadership that they maybe didn't think was their place to have. So that was an awesome experience. But eventually in 2006, I started my own company and found my real place in doing inspirational talks, going to churches, going to centers, going wherever people would have me, teaching meditation practices and contemplative practices, and leading retreats. Yeah, so that's what I still do today. It takes a lot of different shapes and forms, but I'm simply at service for that love to happen within each person.
In this pretty chaotic world that we're living in right now, what do you find, or what do you imagine might be the message that most people are really needing to hear?
That there are answers to the desire for each of us and our world to live in love and harmony and peace. That it is possible to ask the questions that will open up new doors to find those answers. And that each person has the resourcefulness, capital R, within them, and it can be found.
And how would you advise people to look for it, or does one look for it?
I think there is a looking, but the looking is not the initiation. It's really the response of something that's already happening from my perspective. So I don't know if everybody would ascribe to that, but from my perspective, if all life is pulsing with a life force, and that life force is truly ineffable, then that longing for the full expression of that life force or divinity to happen in creation, that longing is what presses forward and niggles at us. And our looking may feel like we're searching for something and we don't know where to find it.
Out there.
But that looking is actually a prompting. It's a responding to something that's already inviting us, that's happening inward. And so to engage that process, obviously my platform is so much inner work, as within, so without, would be to find the types of modalities, partnerships, rhythm of life, courses that bring each person, to bring the person seeking more and more to the direct experience of what's within them. And to stay faithful, so discipline. I like that. I read a quote once on a yoga wall, and it said, discipline is simply remembering what you want. And at times we know what we want, and we touch it and we taste it, and we feel firm, because when it hits that deep place within ourselves, we know it's right.
Mm-hmm.
But the discipline is simply continuing to remember that, so that our thoughts and our actions and our decisions are oriented to keep us faithful to what we've experienced of what is true.
Mm-hmm. And what's the role of silence?
We definitely get into belief systems here.
Mm-hmm.
For me, silence is the place where all fulfillment is. So for me, cultivating the ability to truly be in silence opens up the doors of potentiality to such a degree that we can actualize. To put it another way, oftentimes when we're not open to silence, we have a pattern happening, and that pattern is a false sense of security, whether it's a distraction, whether it's a thing we think we should be doing, whether it's a way we're directing ourselves because we don't know how to deal with other things. And these patterns take us away from the spaciousness that silence affords. And when we open to the silence, that spaciousness lets us come into contact with what some of our essential nature is. And in a sense, we can be repatterned. I experienced in the monastery being repatterned many times just by virtue of being in the silence, not even during a meditation or during a chant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the patterns you and I were speaking before about trance states and what my experience of trance is. And as I mentioned, my feeling is that there are numerous trances that one is in. A trance is simply a state of mind. And a person can be in a state of mind one day in which they're very talkative and they have many ideas. And another day they might be in a state of mind in which they're quiet. Another day they might be feeling very amorous. Another day they might have a feeling of having great creativity going on within. I mean, sometimes I can sit down at the piano and I'm just amazed at the music that comes out of my fingers, and other days it seems like I can't play anything that sounds good. And each of these is associated with a certain state of mind. And in my work in hypnosis, when I see hypnosis, medical hypnosis, scientific hypnosis, as really being a set of tools that can be used to guide a person from one state into another state. And so, in a way, they're all, in a sense, hypnotic states. And so a person who is can't concentrate on their work because they're worried about maybe there's a stain on their dress, or that their hair may be messed up, or they're wondering whether or not they're going to get a date for the prom, or who knows, whatever. And so instead of being able to concentrate on something you really want to concentrate, you are really in a trance that's being governed by that thing that is attracting your attention, so to speak. And usually that's some pattern that you've learned. You've learned to be jealous, or you learned to be afraid, or you've learned to be insecure, or you've learned that the only way that you're liable to be successful in life is if you achieve things or impress other people. So we're kind of programmed with these beliefs from early in our lives. And the programming happens because we're very vulnerable when we come along. We're insecure because we don't understand the world. And then over and over in most of our lives, we are taught we're being threatened, either you do this or I'm going to spank you, or if you let anybody see you cry, then they'll all pick on you, or if you don't get better grades, you won't get to go to the movies, or on and on and on and on. There's this insecurity or fear that I won't be successful, or that I won't be accepted, or daddy will be angry, whatever it is. And so therefore, somehow we learn, I have to do this thing over here in order to avoid this pain. In other words, there's an inner anxiety that we have, and that anxiety is triggered in us by the world that we live in. And it doesn't go away as you get older. It becomes more because you're bombarded with media. You're bombarded with news programs that are going to tell you who got raped and where they got raped and what may be happening in your neighborhood next and what storm is coming on and how many millions of refugees are wandering in the desert right now. And I mean, all of these kinds of things that are assaults on the tenderness and the sensitivity of that deeper human spirit. And so we have to find a way to protect ourselves. And so maybe we work real hard and get distracted by our work, or maybe we gamble, or maybe we act out sexually, or maybe we play basketball, or maybe we get migraine headaches, or whatever. There are these things that we go into because it gives us freedom to a certain degree from that internal anxiety. And these are in a sense almost like addictions, because as long as we're involved in those, our experience is, when I'm involved in that, then I don't have to feel that ache inside, that fear that's inside. And that's a belief you have that creates a state of mind. Okay, now you're locked into that belief. You're in that trance state. And so when people come to see me, let's say as individuals or in a group, they walk in and, they're in a trance. They think, this is how I have to be. I have to do everything that my husband wants me to do, otherwise I'm a terrible person. You're in a trance. So we're bound up in all of these things, which are attempts to run away from this deep feeling of anxiety and fear and insecurity that we've known, for all of our lives. And usually we haven't had the experience that you did when you were 5 years old, of that discovering that freedom. And then most people have never, it's a gift to you to say, okay, it's something to begin with. So it's really then, what I find is coming into silence. And that is various techniques, whether it's meditative or prayer or hypnosis or chanting, whatever it might be. It's a way of guiding a person away from that usual set of thoughts and behaviors and activities that they're doing into a quiet place. And as you use the right techniques, what you're really doing is quieting your limbic system, the paleocortex, this ancient part of us that is responding with fear or anger and all of these emotions, and of course the diseases that are the result of the stress produced by those emotions in us. We quiet the amygdala, we quiet the hippocampus, we quiet that old part of the brain, and it stops sending out signals of, you're about to die, you're about to die, you're about to die, and there's peace. And the moment there's peace, then the mind doesn't have to go off into one or the other trance or addictive states that it usually goes into to avoid the pain, because the pain's not there. Then we come into silence, and then in that silence, then it becomes possible to hear that